Hi everybody, it's Susan from Sunrise Quilt Studio, and this week's block is called Martha Washington's Star. And here is my completed block. I decided to do it in red, white, and blue. And it's a pinwheel inside a square and a square unit and some star points. So it really goes together pretty easily, but there are some different techniques in this one from the previous blocks that I've shown. So you'll want to download that pattern and follow those directions. It's not difficult, just a little bit different. So I hope you'll join me and I'll show you how to make the Martha Washington star block. Here are the fabrics you're going to need to make the Martha Washington star block. For A, you will need 2, 3, and 7/8 inch squares, and you'll cut those on the diagonal to give 4 triangles. You'll need 8 3.5 inch squares, and you'll want to draw a diagonal line on the wrong side of these. C will be 1 4 1/4 inch square, and you'll cut that on the diagonal twice to give you 4 triangles. D is 4 3.5 by 6.5 inch rectangles. E is 4 3.5 inch squares. F is 1 4 1/4 inch square cut on the diagonal twice to give you 4 triangles. So let's get started making the Martha Washington block. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is to make half square triangles from the F triangles and the C triangles. So we're going to put them right sides together and make 4 half square triangles, and this will make the pinwheel for the center of the block. So this is an old way of making half square triangles. I don't use this very often, but it gives a more accurate pinwheel for this. Okay, now I'm going to cut these apart and press them open, and I'll press towards the dark fabric, which is the blue for me. Okay, so here are all those half square triangles, and I'm going to go ahead and clip off the dog ears. Okay, now I need to form them into a pinwheel. So I'll make some room here, and I'm just going to lay them out here into the pinwheel format. So you can see that there. So I'm going to sew these two together, and the diagonal seams will nest. So I will snug those up together to nest them in, and then sew. I'm going to do the same with this set. Okay, and I'm going to press these and sew them together. Okay, so I have the 2 halves and just need to put those together and then sew those. And you can place a pin right at the point of each one, go through one and then the other to make sure you've got your points all lined up, and then line up these seams, get those nested together, and then you should be good to go. There we go, there's the pinwheel block. I'm going to press this and then we'll add the A triangles to make this a larger square. Okay, so I pressed this seam in the back open, that last seam I sewed. So let's get the A triangles. And I'm going to fold these in half with the long edges here. So long edge here, I'm going to fold that over. And this is the wrong side. And I'm just going to finger press right there in the middle to give me a good starting point here. And then I'm going to go ahead and line that up with the seam right here. Let me flip it this way. Do it this way, it'll nest up against that seam. And then open it up, and then I'm going to pin it right there in the center. I'm being careful because these are all bias edges I'm working with. The outside is all bias, and this A triangle is also biased edge right there. So let's go ahead and sew that. Let's add a little light here. There we go. Okay, then I'm going to sew one to the opposite side and do the same thing. If I can get them apart. Here we go. Okay, wrong sides together. And then match that up with the seam. And pin it there. And sew. Okay, I'm going to press these open. Okay, so I have this. I'm going to trim off these dog ears. Okay. Then add the triangles to the last two sides. Okay, so here is the finished pinwheel, the center of the block. Now this should measure 6.5 inches, so you'll want to check that when you get done. And I'm going to go ahead and trim off dog ears. And we'll move on to the next step. Okay, next we're going to make flying geese units. So these are large units. We have the D rectangles and the B squares, and the B squares have a diagonal line drawn on the wrong side. And we'll make these just like any other flying geese unit. They're just larger than what I usually do. So we're going to place them right sides together. I'm going to put a triangle on the right side, or a square on the right side of the rectangle. My drawn line is going from the top center to the bottom right hand corner, and I'm going to sew directly on that line. Okay, now I'm going to take my scissors and cut off this outer triangle, leaving a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And you can save these pieces if you want. And then I'm going to press this back so we'll have that much of the flying geese unit. And I'll do that to all 4 units. Now I'm going to sew the square onto the opposite side of the rectangle. Diagonal lines going from the top center to the bottom left-hand corner. Okay, now I'm going to trim off this outer corner and press back, and then the flying geese units will be done. Okay, I have all 4 flying geese units, so now I'm ready to put the block together. So I'm going to lay this out and show you what this is going to look like. Okay, I'm going to start with the pinwheel in the center, and then we're going to lay out the flying geese units, and they're going to go on the edges of the pinwheel. And these are making the start points, so we're going to put the blue towards the center, and then we have the E squares, and they're going in the corners. So that makes the Martha Washington block. And so we're going to sew this row together, and then this one and this one, and then we'll sew them all to each other, and then we'll have a completed block. Okay, I'm going to sew the first 2 pieces of each row together, and then I'll add the 3rd piece, and then I'll sew all 3 rows together. Okay, the middle row, we've got 2 points here, a point on each section, the pinwheel and the flying geese unit. So I'm going to pin those 2 through their points, make sure they're lined up, and then sew. Okay, once again in the center, I'm going to match up points between these rows. And then I'm going to match seams. Now the top and bottom row, I press the seams open. That seemed to be the easiest thing to do for this block. Okay, here is the completed block. This one turned out really well. The measurements of the units are different than what I normally show here on the channel. They're usually like full inches or half inches, and we've got 1/4 inch measurements on a couple of these pieces, but it makes a difference in how the block comes together. So you'll want to follow those measurements so that you'll get a nice block. So anyway, here is the Martha Washington star. Okay, so here is the completed Martha Washington star. So it turned out really well. It wasn't difficult, just a little bit different techniques, and some of the pieces have a little bit different sizing than what we've been doing in the past. But it isn't difficult, so I hope you'll give it a try. Now, if you like this video, please click the like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and click that notification bell so you'll be notified when the next video comes up. And in the meantime, I hope you're all staying safe and healthy, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. For more quilting ideas, click on the video links, and to keep up with my latest projects, click on the subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon.